Yeah, he left.
I did not know that. Ready? Here we go.
This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you, and we have a packed show to discuss one of the, listen, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say one of the most embarrassing losses the Winnipeg Jets have had, probably in the 2.0 era. Maybe it's recency bias, but I have a hard time thinking about more dispiriting performances by a team than what we saw last night, especially when you consider what they've been going through and dealing with for the better part of the last month. I got bad news. We flipped the calendar to December last night, and it looked a lot like the worst of November, a month that saw the Jets fall from comfortably in a playoff spot near the top of the Central Division to now on the wrong side of the playoff line and chasing a wild card spot at the same time that the Avalanche, Dallas Stars, and Minnesota Wild have been on cruise control, winning pretty much every night. 5-1 last night in Buffalo, a game that we're going to get into. And, we got to pull out the big guns on a day like today. We're going to bring in Steve Kouleas from SiriusXM NHL Radio. I always love talking to Cool. Nobody that has the passion for the game like the SiriusXM NHL Radio host. He also, I think, watches more hockey than maybe any other human on the planet. So we'll get his take on what the heck is going on with this Winnipeg Jets team. And then Murat is going to jump on in with us. And, Murat just put out the grades for the Winnipeg Jets through 25 games. I'm not sure that 25th game might just take almost everybody on the team a notch below because of what we saw last night. Listen, there's not really anything to look back on last night and say, well, that was pretty good. I mean, it was just subpar from the beginning. And this game being on Amazon was interesting. For the Jets to have a performance like that in front of a lot of people that don't watch this team very often was, I think, really telling. Now, listen, they've lost a lot of games. Have they all been as bad as last night? I'll argue no. But to hear Thomas Hickey, who was on our program yesterday, talk, between the benches and just say how far behind the play the Winnipeg Jets were. They just could not keep up with the Buffalo Sabres. Was tough. Jody Shelley was not mincing words at all on the broadcast, and Chris Pronger got into it in the intermission. So there was no sugarcoating it last night. Not that happens on a regular basis. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I think we got a very interesting perspective on where the Winnipeg Jets are, at least where they were last night, from the Amazon broadcast that justifiably ripped them pretty good. They deserved it. We'll hear from Scott Arniel afterwards. He was despondent, I think is maybe the best way to put it, and I don't blame him. The players didn't have a lot of answers. And, if you felt like the Nashville game was a step forward, and I guess it was because they got 2 points and they desperately needed a win. That was 2 steps back last night. And I'll be honest, we didn't really dive into this. I didn't want to be too negative yesterday on the program after, they got a win and ended the losing streak. But even after, the team was up 3-0 and went down to 3-2 and ended up getting that goal and winning the game, there was a lot of things that were really concerning and still way off what we we're accustomed to. And again, I'm saying last season because so many of these players are the same, but this team isn't the same right now. And, we can talk about Connor Hellebuyck being out of the lineup. And obviously, when you're missing your best player, that matters. But, despite Eric Comrie getting yanked after the first period, I mean, I'm not putting that on the goaltending. I mean, it was a borderline full roster no-show in front of him last night. And both he and Milic, they're already up against it, knowing that, your quality of goaltending is going down. You don't have the best player in the world. But Hellebuyck, Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, you name it, they weren't winning. So there is a lot of concern in the Peg. Panic buttons have been raining into my inbox. We'll throw the why not question of the day out right now, right off the bat today. Remis has the poll up in the chat. Why not question of the day for not AutoCorp, Waverly, and McGillivray. How are you feeling about the Jets right now through 25 games? Rough patch, they'll respond. Concerned, not panicking. Alarm bells going. And full panic mode. Vote in the chat. We'll get to that in a minute. The fan feedback is hot and heavy coming into the chat right now. Listen, just before we get things going, we'll hear from the coach. Michael Remis is going to join me live. A big shout out to the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada. Jake will pop by a little later on today. We'll do our Canadian team Misery Loves Company discussion. We also want to thank our friends at, of course, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery, Uptown Alley, Canadian Club, St. Vital Dental Center, and Rowley's Transfer, Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug. And again, we just fired out the why not question of the day. We'll get to fan feedback for fansfirst.ca as well. Welcome to everybody in chat. I feel your angst. Michael Remis, how are you today? Good job on the post game last night with Connor. Although that's a tough one. I mean, I dreaded having to talk about that game for 2 hours today, seemingly, from about midway through the first period, to be perfectly honest with you. You guys had to get going right after the game and try and make sense of what we just saw from the club as this road trip continued.
It was a tough one, Huss, with the Winnipeg Jets going down very early into that game. A lot of the same themes that we're discussing continuing, giving up a ton of chances. Buffalo skating and passing all over the Jets. They could not keep up with the play. Welcome back from injury, Josh Norris. Massive game yesterday. And goaltending, I think it's just... I think they're getting put in a difficult spot, but, I mean, the one off Milic's back after you make it 3-1, you think, okay, there's some life here. Didn't help to make it 4-1, and Buffalo really put the exclamation on that one. You mentioned as bad as the Jets have looked. I had flashbacks to the game before Claude Noel got fired against Columbus in January of I forget what it was, 2012 or something? That was the lockout year. Anyway, 2013. But I don't think anyone's getting fired about after this or anything, but you have to look at what they've been doing and say, okay, what do we need to change here? Because, yeah, you won against Nashville, but the last two in Carolina, in Buffalo, have not looked great. There's been no push from the Jets. They've been skated out of the building or having trouble scoring. It's not great. And if I had to vote in this poll, how are you feeling? I think they're still right in there in the playoffs. I think alarm bells going. I'm not full-blown panic. I saw Dom from The Athletic put out his playoff probabilities. The Jets are still, a good bet to get in there. Probably going to be in the last two spots, but something's got to give here because this stretch, they haven't really put up much of a fight.
Listen, if this team continues to play the way they are and have been for the last little while, we won't be talking about a wild card spot at the end of the season. We might not be talking about it at the Olympics. I mean, just being real. You play like this for an extended period of time or this continues, and we're spending the last 6 weeks of the season hitting the freaking draft lottery simulator 50 times a show. like has happened a few years before. Thinking back to 2016 and Patrick Laine. I mean, the team's been competitive since then. They've been a playoff team. And listen, there's a lot of talk right now about the composition of this team, and we'll get into that with Murat. I mean, there's no way around it right now. The off-season subtractions and additions have taken this team from a real contender to at least a team right now that doesn't have an identity at all. Now, there's a lot of players that were on that President's Trophy team last year that aren't playing up to snuff. I mean, the first line is still productive. Other than that, it's crickets. And listen, Jonathan Toews, Gustav Nyquist, Tanner Pearson, Cole Koepke, I mean, the 4 off-season additions have been, for the most part, ineffective and often on the wrong side of the ledger. I mean, not even holding our own on an even level. And then you mix in, I mean, some of the defense from last night. I mean, whether it was Luke Schenn, Dylan Sandberg, Logan Stanley, I mean, just plays that are not like, now listen, if the forwards did them no favor. I mean, I think Arnie said, and we'll play this right away, 9 odd man rushes and they scored on 4 of them. I mean, it's just simply isn't acceptable. And I mean, Remis, the schedule, this is the thing that is even more concerning right now. The schedule for this team is only getting ramped up. I mean, if you go through the teams that they've lost to, but also the teams that they've beat to get to 13-12 right now, you're not seeing the Avalanche or the Dallas Stars. They did lose to the Stars in the home opener. But, I mean, they're moving up a weight class. I mean, if we thought the team was slow and didn't have energy on Monday, what are they going to be like Saturday night in Edmonton after 3 more games in different cities and 3 and 4 nights? I mean, you just have to find a way. And we'll talk about this with Cool. But for a team that looked so slow and behind it last night against Buffalo, who I thought was good, had a lot of energy, and they were a younger, fast team, how are things going to look at the Bell Center against one of the fastest young teams in the league in the Montreal Canadiens? Maybe not surprising that we had the very rare post-game closed-door meeting after last night's embarrassing performance in Buffalo.
Yeah, and when you look at the differences between last year's team and this year's team, well, the key thing has been secondary scoring, and I think we kind of underestimated how much this team would miss Nikolai Ehlers. Not just his zone entries and his ability to carry the puck through the neutral zone and make things happen on his own, but just looking at strictly production, where the teams played 25 games this year. When you look at the first 25 games last year, Ehlers played in 4 of them. He had 25 points in first 25 games last year. You're taking away a point per game player, and you've replaced it with Jonathan Toews, who's got 9 points. Gus Nyquist has 6, doesn't have a goal. And Tanner Pearson, he's got 4. I mean, Koepke's offense has been limited. Ehlers' more points in 25 games last year than those guys have had combined. It's a big loss. You think of team speed, zone entries. That's things that they're struggling with right now. And, it's a different team. I think Neil Pionk being out, certainly, not great for the defense. But every team goes through injuries. They have to manage it. And, this first line, great, but how long can you keep trotting out one line that can score and 3 lines that can't? So probably going to have to switch something up. Arniel said everything is on the table. I'm curious what that means. Today's a travel day. We'll see what they trot out there tomorrow at the morning skate. Maybe will give us a better idea. But, you've got 10 goals here in 5 games. Not going to get it done. You're giving up a lot of goals as well. It's tough. They're going to have to find a way to rebound and find their game against Montreal and not give up so many odd man rushes, as you said.
You mentioned that, the zone entry, the breakout, the battles the Jets are having a real hard time with. You know who's not having a hard time with it? Whoever's playing the Jets. And that was last night. Like the maybe the most concerning thing about it was just how easy it seemed, for Buffalo to get the puck and immediately move the other way without much resistance whatsoever. And I mean, that goes to being behind the game and just being slow. In that, Buffalo was skating, made a couple good passes, and boom, you're going from behind your net. I mean, the fourth goal, was that the one that was right off the top of the right early in the or maybe it was the fifth goal, the start of this third period, where Rasmus just ripped the puck around the boards to a player. Now, they did get maybe a little bit of a good bounce off the stanchion, which put it onto the guy's stick. He didn't have to fish it off the blue line, but just tuck that in. Yeah, it was the fifth goal at the start of the third period, Norris's second of the game, where Benson put it in there. I mean, the ease of this. Oh, this will look wild on the. Here it is. So Rasmus Sandin rips it up. Quick touch pass. Thank you very much. In between the two defensemen. Goal. And I mean, that never happened once that last. And it just goes to show just how far off the team was right now. And there's no real easy answer. We'll try and get some from Cool in a minute. But, right off the bat, let's go to fan feedback. There is so much going on right now in the chat. Sandy Sharp, last night was not how we are. I'd press the panic button for sure. T. Will, Comrie isn't doing the Jets any favors, but he isn't the problem. Agreed on that. Team's no longer built to play Arnie style. If Chevy doesn't make a move, I can't see how they pull themselves out of this. Key says, and this is what is the most concerning, I think, for fans. Calgary Flames situation 2.0. Too good to get a meaningful draft pick. Too poor to make the playoffs. Frosty Balls, what a stink show of the game. A very sloppy Jets game, seriously, from Chris Singer. And Reem, I know you guys talked about this afterwards, but man, it was such a... I mean, we were all watching the game, and I'm sure we were saying the same things to whoever we were watching the game with. But man, I mean, Hickey and Shelley, they seemed legitimately shocked at just how easy Buffalo is having their way with Winnipeg and just how far behind the pace of that game that the Winnipeg Jets were.
Yeah, I did enjoy the Amazon broadcast. We had Thomas Hickey on yesterday, and they just saying this game looks too fast for the Jets. And it reminded me a lot of Anaheim, when the Jets went in there and they were skating circles around the Jets. Another young team. Anaheim did get a win yesterday in St. Louis. And again, you had Chris Pronger hit the nail on the head where he's like, hey, this is a one-line team. You're not getting production from, 2, 3, 4. The top line gets a goal again. Kyle Connor tips in a Morrissey shot. So, they did not hold back their criticism of the Jets and praised Buffalo all game. Buffalo looked like, surefire playoff team yesterday. We'll see how it plays out, but they looked awesome. They got the 2 first overall picks on defense there, Rasmus Dahlin and Owen Power. Talking about that, it was a rough go for anyone out there who subscribed to Prime Video just to get the 4 games this month, tuning in to watch that one last night.
Let's hear from the coach. There's a very different tone than we heard from Scott Arniel after the game Friday in Carolina, where he was hot afterwards. This was a level of, frankly, despair. Here's what Arnie had to say about last night's game.
Well, it's pretty disappointing, that effort after playing a pretty good game in Nashville, and obviously 3 minutes into the game you're down 2-0, and we gave up 9 rush chances. They scored 4 goals off the rush. Showed video, did our pre-scout. Their last 3 games, how many opportunities they get off the rush with 4-man rush with their D, and whether that's stubborn or whether that's not being quick enough, not reading the situation fast enough. We kicked ourselves in that one. We gave up all those rush opportunities, and they capitalized on it.
Yeah, so it's not a case of being surprised that the Sabres brought speed. You knew that was coming. You just were kind of powerless to do a whole lot against it.
They saw lots of video on it. They saw them doing it, and we talked about it. They're real good at it. They got 4 defensemen. Well, they got 6 to D that move pretty well, but they got 4 that can really go. And we're getting beat up the ice sort of shift after shift.
All right, there was the opening statement from Scott Arniel, who, like I think everyone, doesn't have a lot of answers right now for why this team is performing the way they are, other than some very concerning patterns that have been there for the last month, even beforehand. But now it's staring you right in the face as these losses continue to pile up. We mentioned afterwards, it was quite a while before players came out to speak with Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press, who was on the road. A players-only meeting. Well, Mike asked Scott about that after the game.
Couldn't help but notice it took a long time for the room to open, not asking for any trade secrets, but
yeah, they had their own. They had their own team.
That's a player initiated.
Yeah, so that was Lau. Yeah.
Over your career, what can something like that do, and how often does that happen? Is it fairly rare?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes it happens and you don't know it. Maybe it's after I speak to them, but tonight that was them. That was Lau taking it. So you're hoping that the response into our next game is a lot better than what it was tonight. We're a veteran group. Recognize we just embarrassed ourselves, and we're going to have to be a heck of a lot better next one.
Yeah, there's some words you don't hear very often from an NHL head coach, that we embarrassed ourselves. And I don't think you're going to get much disagreement from most people that watch that game and watch the Winnipeg Jets on a nightly basis. Couldn't help but think about Bones last night and how Bones would have, what he would have had to say. Can you imagine sitting around watching that game with Rick Bowness on a couch somewhere at a bar top somewhere out in the Maritimes? He wouldn't have liked to see it. And the famous words, pushback from Bones. Well, wasn't much last night. Arnie was asked if he felt like there was some pushback from his team in the second period.
We made it 3-1. All of a sudden we tilted the ice for a couple of shifts in a row, and then again we are near the end of our end of our shift, and we dump a puck into the middle of the ice in the O zone on a rush, and 2D are heading to the bench, and it's all of a sudden there you go. It's 3-on-1 the other way. So. Those are mental mistakes. Those are things that you can clean up. But at the end of the day, you get in a game like that and you make it 3-1. You gotta continue to just play forward. It can't be risky plays, and we fed right into their offense.
One more from the coach, and listen, has the goaltending been great? No. Has it been close to a Connor Hellebuck level? No. Is that why they're losing these games? Definitely not. This has been complete team failure over the course of this road trip, and especially last night. Eric Comrie did get pulled, though, after the first period. The coach was asked about that decision last night by Mike as well.
I was just trying to spark, and that's Combs will go against Montreal. That's really we were chasing that game right from the get-go, and it wasn't. I didn't have the warm and fuzzies about anything happening, and it was give the kid another opportunity, get him in there, and at the end of the day, like I said, Combs is just getting ready for Wednesday night.
Just last one, but you only have so many lineup things you can do. You had 2 healthy players sitting out today. Would those guys potentially be looked at to maybe they can bring a little more speed into the lineup?
For sure, everything's in play here. We'll see where we are. We'll check with our injured guys. Obviously, we're going to look at this and we'll make a decision for Wednesday.
Everything is in play, according to the coach, and it should be. This is a very urgent time for the Winnipeg Jets to get things together, and that's what was so disappointing last night, right from the get-go, like dropping the puck. Is that as a team that needed to build off a win, needed to string some solid performances together, and the intensity, they were lacking on every level last night. And that will get you embarrassed in the National Hockey League, even in Buffalo. And, credit to the Sabres for putting together a good performance. But, man, that was tough to watch last night and left a lot of Winnipeg Jet fans wondering, where this season is headed to after the last 15 games, or what do you call it, 13 games, which has been just an abject disaster. Listen, we're going to talk to Steve Kouleas coming up in just a couple minutes. Murat will join us at the top of the hour. And we'll kind of dive into what Arnie just said with everything being on the table. Obviously, things need to change. Where might they go from here? We'll talk about that with Murat coming up. Before we bring in Steve Kouleas, December is here, folks. We thought that was going to be great for the Jets. It didn't start very well, but we do know the holidays are coming. You got lots to do, including taking care of that extended Christmas list. Why don't you head over and 2 for 1 it. Have a great time with friends and family over the holidays at Uptown Alley, and give the gift of fun this year with Uptown Alley gift cards. If you haven't seen the new Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews Avenue, absolutely incredible spot for kids and adults of all ages. 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, an incredible arcade, games where you win tickets to win great prizes, and certainly for gatherings and parties, an unbelievable food and beverage menu that will blow you away. If you do want to grab gift cards, it's an amazing stocking stuffer or a present under the tree. And they've also got so much going on in and around the holidays. A great spot to do a group or a corporate event where you just pick your activities, pick your meal, pick your add-ons, and then their event staff takes care of everything. And obviously, it's been for years probably one of the top birthday party spots for kids, teens, or adults. The gang is waiting for you down at Uptown Alley this holiday season, and for gift cards, check them out online, uptownalley.ca, 1301 St. Matthews Avenue. I don't want to make a joke about people moving or getting moved out from the team right now, but I will mention if anyone is moving or if you are moving in the coming months, lean on our friends at Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, now into their 7th decade, family-owned and operated right here in the Peg, and you might even get the WST truck to move you to your next spot. Head on over to Rollies.com and click on Request an Estimate. Put in the promo code WST and let our friends at Rollies know when you're planning on moving, where you're moving to, and what needs to be moved, and they'll turn it around with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for, now into their 7th decade, as I mentioned. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies Transfer, the most trusted name in the game for over 60 years. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollies.com. Dr. Terry, listen, not a lot of Jets fans smiling today, but when you need to get your smile worked on, head on over to St. Vital Dental Center. Our great sponsors and friends, Dr. Terry and his amazing staff, would love to take care of you and your family, as they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers. And now they got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building. Taking care of customers from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. There's nothing St. Vital Dental Center can't do for you when it comes to your dental needs. So make an appointment today at stvitaldental.ca. Say hi to the doc and tell him that Huss and Remis sent you. And I'm going to be straight. I needed a drink after that game last night. I didn't go full leaving Las Vegas, but and hopefully we won't need to be doing that with future games. That was a real tough one. But in all joking aside, as we get ready to host for the holidays and have Christmas parties and whatnot, our friends at Canadian Club have a couple great additions to your menu that you'll want to have for your guests. Of course, the Canadian Club, the original, the official spear of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, always a holiday staple. And for that Bomber fan in the family, you can still grab one of those limited edition Blue Bomber bottles if you can find one at Manitoba Liquor Marts. But right now on the screen, you're looking at the Canadian Club limited edition Cranberry Ginger Ale, here for the holidays. The great taste of Canadian Club Ginger Ale and Cranberry pre-mixed cocktail in cans. amazing for that holiday cocktail that maybe you don't want to have time to make. You can just crack it open in the can, pour it on ice, put a little garnish on, and look like a big-time bartender with an amazing cocktail. It's all ready for you at your local Manitoba liquor marts, available in 4-packs, and keep your eyes out for the CC Cranberry Ginger Ale at your local beer vendor as well as we get into the holidays. All right, Murat coming up just after the top of the hour. Right now, let's head into Cool's Cave and welcome in Steve Kouleas from SiriusXM NHL Radio. Steve Kouleas, the legend himself, SiriusXM NHL Radio, joins us now. Cool. These are dark times in the Peg. What the heck is going on with our hockey team here?
I don't know about legend, maybe legend in his own mind. That's what people used to say about me. I'm rough and tumble this morning because of beer league. Don't get me started on our beer league team. We're actually in better shape than the Jets because at least, we guarantee a playoff spot. That's what the league does when you join the league. I'm really disappointed, and I think there's some really, if you just blame goaltending without Hellebuck and Comrie, he knows he's got to be better. We know the record. I'll just say this much. They don't have a second line. And the Taves thing and keeping the big boys together, that's got to change. Got to make some tough decisions. Okay, I expect more from Cole Perfetti. We've expected more from Taves. We talk about Lowry at 3, I don't care. That's not working. And you watch the Bo Byram goal as an example, and Logan Stanley struggling. Obviously, the Tuck goal, Milic, I'm not blaming him. Not working right now. The good thing is it's not working for a lot of teams. So it's back to Jets hockey. Sarah was on the show a couple of weeks ago and talked about some of the staples, and I'm not seeing it. I'm talking about dumbing it down now and going back to basics. First of all, it's getting the puck out, then worrying about getting it out with possession and not pinching without F3 support. This is backwards. And it's got to stop now, and they got to figure out what they want to do with this. Feelings are going to get hurt, and I know there's legends, but -12 and 3 goals and other things. It's tough. It's tough to point fingers at players, but the players are put together by the management group, and the management group and the coach has to execute. It's not working, but at least it's not -5, not Calgary's record. We take a breath and try to get to 2, 3, 4 games above 500. By Christmas.
Well, the thing that's compounding all of this, Cool, is that, I mean, we can look at a player like Taves that, just hasn't maybe taken that step from the first 10 games to where we are and has struggled, and obviously the results speak to it. You can talk about the second line, and Gustav Nyquist hasn't scored. I mean, it's everybody. And there's one thing, I mean, we've certainly talked about the coach being hesitant to break up that top line and try and get a different look. I would imagine that is coming because it doesn't seem like I have that many more answers. But to just be, I mean, if you watched the game last night, the Buffalo Sabres weren't just a step ahead of the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, the Jets were just chasing them around the whole night. And we heard it on the broadcast over and over again of just how slow this team looks right now. Is that who they are? Or is this a team that is, for whatever reason, playing in quicksand right now? It's looking like it's a little bit more the former, to be honest.
Yeah, and I can't believe it. I don't think you can get slow in a year. I think we could argue that when you had a couple of slow players, that's one thing. But playing fast is not just foot speed, moving the puck. And remember, as we were taught, the puck goes way faster than anyone can skate. So I'm not seeing that. I'm not saying that. What was great about Jets hockey was it was like biting into a nice green granny apple. It was crisp. You knew what you were getting on the zone exits, the zone entries, through the neutral zone. They knew when to gain the zone and make a play, in, kick it out. They have been one of the best zone entry teams since they moved to Winnipeg, to be honest with you. Now I'm seeing discombobulation. I know when people struggle, they struggle. Like, we talked about either matchups or Logan Stanley, that looked like a slow play. It was a bad, those things are going to happen. Sabres did look fast, which is scary for their fans because at times when they lay an egg, they lay big eggs, the way the Jets laid one last night. So I don't think they're slow. I think they can move the puck. I think they really have to figure out what the second line is going to look like. And, is Velarde coming down? and you have Scheifele and Velarde, and then what? Perfetti goes up there, or you have Connor coming down and he gets help, and he's with Lowry and somebody else. This is not tweaking now. I'm ready to start carving up this Christmas turkey and talking about when there's no play, the Florida Panther flip it out. You understand what I mean? Teams get in trouble when they're skilled, and I get it. We're in a league now where you center breakout and you score from your own zone. You make a play, center comes down and away, and that's fun hockey. And then you get speed through the neutral zone. That's the fun zone, and go to work. When that doesn't work, gone. Bye-bye. Live to fight another day, especially when it's not working. And I'm more apt in those situations so you don't get spanked by the Buffalo Sabres in their building when they were supposed to be the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And now the Sabres have a few players that were – and Norris helped. The last goal, whatever, it's 4-1 at that point. Too easy, man. Between the blue lines, if you are not a team that makes the other team skate through quicksand, you are in trouble with a capital W. That's what I saw last
Dude, the Winnipeg Jets may have been the Sabres game operations staff last night, the way they rolled out the red carpet for Josh Norris and welcomed him back into the National Hockey League. I mean, the lack of any sort of resistance on a few of the goals, I mean, certainly have people losing their mind in the chat right now. And last night had some people kind of wondering, like, what has happened to this team? Like, this is no hyperbole, Cool. That's a top 5 embarrassing loss since the team re-entered the National Hockey League in the last 2 years. And I mean, no disrespect to Buffalo. I thought they hustled. They played hard. They knew what the mission was last night. But we saw a Jet team that, we can't talk about this game without speaking about the last 3 weeks. I mean, they go 2-4 on the road. They go 1-2 at home. The start of this road trip was a catastrophe, and they won a game in Nashville against the worst team in the NHL, and then came out and somehow looked worse than they did against Carolina the night before. This is probably a lot bigger than one player, or even, the line makeup, to be honest. It seems like the identity of this team has just been lost over the course of about a month.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with any of that, and I think that when there's troubled times like this, then whether it's a players only meeting or a conversation about what then will change, so nothing doesn't change. So part of it is between the ears. Part of it is, and I don't want to get into Orville Tessier or anything else, but are they playing as good as they can play? And I don't like to use the word compete, because there's difference between execution and energy. Sometimes people say, well, poor effort last night. Well, the effort was there, but the tank was kind of empty because X amount of scheduling and everything else. I don't think that was the story yesterday. I think that some type of system tweaking that I'm talking about, I would play more. I got to protect these two guys now. I got to protect these two guys like we've normally protected our Hart Trophy winner, but also in a way of trying to win this thing 3-2 by getting the puck out, by not looking slow, by moving it, living to fight another day. I'd be more about getting it in. I'd be protecting the neutral zone. I'd be thinking about a 1-3-1 at times. I really would. I know it's boring and it sucks, but you know what else sucks? Missing the playoffs. That really does. And I'm really interested in now next game, because if nothing changes that we saw, then there's more trouble. And there's a lot of teams that are in trouble. The good thing is, there's a big group in the mushy middle. So right now, I'm not throwing the baby in the bathwater and getting a new house. There's too much there. But if I am doing some construction, I think it starts with safer play and the second line. I really do. That's what I'm really, I think that would help. I really do.
The lack of defensive aptitude on this team is maybe the most concerning, because, at some point guys won't score, but you look at the last 2 years, I mean, back-to-back Jennings trophies. This team, I'll tell you what, the Hart Trophy looks a lot better right now on Connor Hellebuck for anyone that doubted it right now, but I'm not placing this on the goaltenders. Could they be better, make an extra save or two? Sure. Look at the losses that they've had as of late. This is not being hung on Eric Conry or Thomas Milic in the start. They did far from it, to be honest. But for a team to get so far away from a defensive identity, which was who they were, Cool, it obviously has the coaching staff perplexed in a dark place. I mean, after the Carolina game, Arniel sort of went to a card that he doesn't normally play and said, listen, we weren't ready for this game. A bunch of guys didn't show up, and that's about as close as you'll hear. Yesterday, I mean, it went from the angry parent to the really disappointed parent. And I do wonder what that coach's room is like after a game like that, on a day like this, where they're getting ready to, oh, by the way, going to Montreal. You thought the Buffalo Sabres were fast? Get ready for tomorrow night. And you better be ready to do something different, or you're going to be embarrassed on a whole different stage than you were last night in upstate New York.
And that's a great point. And I think when I just go back to last year, the one thing that we've always mentioned as it comes to the elite teams or a team like Carolina under Rod would be relentless. Well, the Jets were too. The relentless in all three zones and in their own zone, and we're not seeing that. So I don't think you can just lose relentlessness, right? There was no relentlessness last night. That's the MO of the Canes, and that was men amongst boys in the game that you're talking about. I think it's better to go into Montreal. I think it's better to go into Montreal, and we're going to find out with a lot of the things that we've just discussed, with getting a save, getting it out, relentlessness. If you don't check the Montreal Canadiens, if you're going to play the not supporting the pinching defenseman F3 game, they will blow you out of the Bell Center, and you'll hear ole, ole, ole before 8 o'clock Central Time. So I think in a way that is good. I really do. And sometimes when you look and say, do we have a good team? Yes. Do we have the talent? Do we have it? You question things that you thought were the staples. Do we have shingles? Yes. We have the roof is on. Yeah. We have a support system. Yeah. You question everything, and I understand that. I go off the top of my head. Without even how about last year, the Jets' save percentage with Eric Comrie as a team was 914. 914. You know how many teams had a better save percentage than that? None had a better save percentage than 914. So that says those things were there. They were supposed to be better with the addition of Jonathan Toews. So now the tough points are, if he's not that guy, and I don't think he is, and I thought, and I was mocked when I said I could see them starting the playoffs if they don't have a 2, that Lowry has to be the 2. Now, if Lowry's a 3 and there's a new 2 coming, I could argue that Toews might have to be the 4. Like, honestly, if a Kadri were, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking ahead here of the realism of what could happen. Remember, don't start any idea with no. Think about it. What's going on? Well, I'm intrigued about tomorrow. I'll tell you this right now. And I think going to Montreal is better than going into Columbus, or no one's really bad in the East anymore, but you know what, or going back into Nashville. So I think this is good. I really do. And I'm excited about tomorrow.
Cool. Lisa, the Jonathan Toews obviously is a centerpiece because of the position that he plays, his history and notoriety, but he's not the only one that just came in. You've got Gustav Nyquist, who has 0 goals on the season. Tanner Pearson has a couple, but has not been that impactful. Cole Koepke hasn't even been in the lineup the last little while. There's a lot of older players, and this is the oldest team right now in the NHL, which is freaking people out at the same point. They're going, well, listen, if this is happening with this older team, I mean, at what point do you maybe need an injection of youth and quickness into the lineup? Do you think it's more likely if Kevin Cheveldayoff wakes up this morning and goes, we can't go on this way, that he looks to augment this team via a trade? Or might it be some guys sitting down, potentially getting sent down, and bringing up a Brad Lambert, who had 4 games earlier, has a bunch of speed, a Nikita Chiprikov, a Parker Ford, some of the young players that at least got a taste of the NHL earlier on this season, when frankly the team was getting better results as a squad?
Do you think Chiprikov or Ford or Lambert can help right now? I mean, when you want to send messages, you call the farm. And, and what I do, it's 99% mostly on, 1,000 NHL players and what's going on. So what is available and how guys are playing in each of their farm systems. You would obviously know more than I would in that situation. But sometimes, even if someone's close, the message sending of coming up, but not putting them on the 4th line. I'm sending a message and you're scratched, 4th line right winger. No, is can they come up and go higher in the lineup if you were going to do something along the lines of, Lowry centering Kyle Connor and Lambert as an example, as saying, no, we're going to do this in Montreal. And I'm throwing that out there because at one point, we're 30% through the year now. That's a huge sample size. How'd your year go in your stocks? I'm 30% through the year. I'm not doing too good. So what are you going to do to change it? So I think the good thing is this is not a house of cards. This is not team is not ancient. There's a lot there, even without Hellebuyck in the lineup, and they are better than this. I really believe that. And some of it, when it's between the ears and it's players only meeting, is going to be about moving the puck, moving the feet, living the fight another day, playing safer. I do believe that, and smarter. Going in there and that doesn't mean you're not relentless. It means when the puck is in the corner and Caulfield is in there with your system, if it's when they have one, you have two, when you have two, they have three, and being able to contain. And I think that the team's in trouble. You know why the Oilers are in trouble? You know why the Leafs are in trouble? You know why the Jets are in trouble? They can't or are unwilling to check. Checking isn't fun. Checking is not on the highlight reel. Oh, what a check. What a check. That's about in the way. And that was a staple. Like, the Oilers have had checking issues. The Leafs have had them. The Jets haven't in comparison. You don't win that award and do what you do for 82 teams by not being able to check. So if you're not willing to check, then it's checkmate for us.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I couldn't have said it better. I mean, they won probably 0 50 battles last night, and they were losing 60-40s or 65s. It was a stunning performance, Cool. And you mentioned the players only meeting afterwards. And listen, I have a ton of respect for Adam Lowry. I think he's one of the best captains in the league. He's a different sort of player, though. I mean, McDavid is the captain, might not say a lot, but we've seen at times when they've really been up against it, he's just put the team on his back, gone and done something, and bailed them out. Obviously, they've had some really embarrassing losses this time this season as well. But the players only meeting, what do you expect from the Jets after that? I mean, because this, I'm not sure is about, hey, we got to go and, cycle the puck better. And they're not talking probably X's and O's. I would imagine that this is more a look in the mirror. Who the hell are we? We need to step up and play with a little bit of pride, emotion, and a commitment to being professionals because, guys, this recent run has not been at a true professional National Hockey League level, and the results say all they need to.
So that's a good speech, right? And that is along the lines of a place they haven't been before. So that's the awkwardness. And we can talk about when coaches say, certain guys didn't show up or compete, they normally know who they are. If those things continue, usually we're in the rumblings of who those people are. And are they capable of giving more? Are they not? Like, that's a different conversation. This can't just be because of Hellebuyck, because I talked about Comrie's numbers and he's better than this, and he's had some bad moments and some bad goals. Let's not kid ourselves. And it's not just about Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, that's not the situation that collapses a franchise, because I still think there's too many players. So obviously Cole was supposed to make up some of the offense, and he played every game last year, and obviously started the year hurt. And other guys have to step up. 2s and 0s and 3s, guys who have 2 and 0s and 3s. If they continue, then this team will be hoping in April they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're supposed to be better than that. I can't put the puck in the net for them. Either can Scott or Neil, but what I can really talk about is being white on rice. And we count puck battles now. Sports Logic and these sites, like I lost 3-2. I had 16 puck battles and won 11, lost 4, and tied the other ones. That's going to bode well. That's going to work. If we're doing this, we'll win the battle. We'll get the puck. We'll make the play because we can. We don't have the puck. We're not making plays and giving up too much. No, it is concern. It is concern. I'm not saying it's Chicken Little, but it's dark. It's there's dark skies here right now which nicely segues into Montreal tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, exactly. Listen, I mean, today I think people are getting it out and just trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this team and where they're at right now. But tomorrow there's another game. And you mentioned all the schedule is tough. Well, I think they look bad tonight. What's it going to be like with a game in Montreal Wednesday, Winnipeg Friday, and then going to Edmonton on Saturday? I mean, you got to be able to deal with this. But, you know, this Montreal Canadiens team tomorrow, I mentioned about the speed that they play with and how concerning that is because of how slow the Jets have looked recently. For people that haven't been watching the Habs, I mean, what are the Jets going to be up against tomorrow night at the Bell Center?
Well, relentless speed, right? That you will notice. You will notice Hudson has the puck the whole game. He's feeding everyone. Suzuki's playing the best hockey of his life and wants to be on Team Canada. I mean, there's only so many spots. So, you know, I'd like not to think that any Jets problems are Olympic related. You know what I mean? Like I would hope not and think not. It is about team, not about I. So this is the best I've ever seen Nick Suzuki. He's playing unbelievable hockey. Caulfield, Demidov is a storyline. If they get production from anyone else that they seem to put, you know, Kapanen is scoring. Jake Evans is the #1 shorthanded ice time penalty killer. He's too good to be a fourth liner. So he's relentless when he kills penalties. Jakub Dobish has been a story between the pipe. I don't know what Montreal is going to do. And they are kind of like a cardiac kids team. They're not afraid to make a mistake, and they will. And no lead is insurmountable, but also no lead is safe. They can turn a 2-1, 30 seconds to go in the third game into a 3-2 overtime victory. So I think it'll be exciting. I think it's good for the Jets. I really, really do, provided we have some structural changes, some lineup changes, and some in-between-the-ear changes. If not, you're going to see a lot of singing happy Frenchmen. 21,273 will be olaying themselves to have. The Habs might be the best team in Canada. They really might be, with all the other troubles everyone. Even Ottawa now, the truck back lost 2 in a row.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, the Canadian team misery index has a big riser right now, and it's right here in Winnipeg with the Jets. And I mean, you just hope that they can figure it out and, you know, come up with a performance tomorrow that's about 20 times better than what they showed last night, because even that might not be enough to win right now in the NHL. It's dark times and cool. I mean, Hellebuck's not coming back next week or anything like that. I mean, just thoughts on what does this do to people that maybe doubted that he was the MVP of last year? I mean, you do really see that he was the backbone and maybe masking a lot more than people would see if they were casually watching the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where when you're struggling, when you're not scoring, when guys are underachieving, and you're not playing good defense, then when you've got the Shesterkin, the Vasilevsky, the Hellebuck, that can hide, you know, the acne with the makeup, that can hide, you know, the bald head with the nice toupee, that you know, hide the bulge with a girdle, or girdles anymore. So so it wouldn't be as bad, you know. But we both agree, right, Andrew, that this Hellebuck situation doesn't mask the guys that haven't scored, doesn't mask there's no second line, doesn't mask the poor decision making, doesn't mask what looks like to be a slower team. So Hellebuck, what has Shesterkin done as the Rangers have struggled, right? We've seen them President's Trophy, sorry to, you know, miss the playoffs, and look where he is now, and they still don't look very good. And they've got Shesterkin. So this is interesting. You know, we say 4 to 6 weeks in a procedure. Just have to hope that they're in it when he's back. But it is code. Is it code yellow, code orange, code red, code green, code? Well, I don't even know what the code meter works, but there's a code. And the Jets have pressed the button here. And they put themselves, let's be honest here, I'm an earned and deserved person. They have earned and deserved this record. This is not by fluke. This is not by getting screwed by the refs. This is where they should be. And they can't be in this spot +1 going into U.S. or U.S. Out of U.S. Thanksgiving and into Christmas. Oh, all I want for Christmas is 2 flipping points. How about in Montreal Wednesday night?
Cool. You are the best. Fill people in on what you've got cooking over at SiriusXM NHL Radio.
Oh, perfect. What we got going on today here? Okay. We got Carter Hutton is joining us as we talk about the return of Carter Hart to the National Hockey League. We'll go over all 10 games tonight and the storylines from last night that include a big night by Sean Monahan. Big night by Sean Monahan for Columbus. This guy, Crosby, apparently he doesn't get old. 2 more goals last night. And it wasn't just celebrating. It was Toffoli. Sorry to bring up Toffoli and Monahan on the same show in Winnipeg. I'm never going to be invited back. And Will Smith with the goal of the night. The Sharks, the Hawks, and the Ducks are other reasons people like in Winnipeg and Edmonton should be worried because there's new kids on the block. These kids look pretty good.
Yeah, we saw that out on the West Coast road trip to begin November. That sort of was the start of this free fall for the Jets. Cool, you were the best. Thanks so much for doing this. Love the work over at Sirius, and hopefully, guaranteed, you'll be getting another invite back. The people always love it when you join us. Have a great one, pal, and thanks for doing this.
Well, now I'm really interested in Jets Habs. Like I would be anyway, but now I might text you after the first period. Thanks, boys.
All right, there's our man, Cool. We'll have Murat join us in a few minutes. We will check in with Taylor Allen later on in the program, back from Halifax. Tough weekend for our Manitoba curling teams, looking to be Olympians. And JBM at the end of the program. Hey, I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg and now serving Canadians from coast to coast, but with 3 Winnipeg locations, or Winnipeg and Manitoba locations to serve you, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. Great deals to be had heading into the holidays. And, if you got a Princess Auto guy in your family or in your circle, nothing better than a Princess Auto gift card for the upcoming holidays and Christmas time as well. Pop by and see him, Panet Road or Portage Avenue West here in Winnipeg or in Brandon. And, of course, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. This would be a great day to just get away from everything. Maybe hop on a sled and go for a ride. Don't quite have enough snow in Manitoba right now, but our friends at Chud's Power Sports are ready for snowmobile season and saying, bring on the winter. Of course, Chud's Power Sports is Manitoba's premier power sports superstore, serving our community for over 80 years up in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 with the best deals and selection when it comes to ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles, Argo and Sasquatch vehicles, and of course, ice houses for the upcoming ice fishing season. Pop by and see him in Gimli or head on over to chudspowersports.com for more on everything they've going on, featured items, great deals on some clearance items. And of course, with snowmobile season just around the corner, lock in preseason deals on Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds before the flakes fly. Pop down and see our pal, the Derminator, and the great people at Chud's Power Sports in Gimli. And check them out online today at chudspowersports.com. TrueNorthParts.com as well for their incredible parts selection and great deals on clearance gear and accessories. And hey, as the temperature plummets, it is time to get ready and beat winter before winter beats you down at Manitoba Battery. You don't want to be that guy calling your buddies saying, dude, I broke down, my battery's not working, can you come and give me a boost? You want to be that guy that's getting that call. Now, they're powering up for Christmas right now with some great deals, including $5 to $10 off power sport batteries, $10 to $20 off booster packs, the ice fishing flasher combo for just $99, great deals on 12-foot booster cables, and of course, gift cards as well. With Manitoba Battery, you'll take care of all of your battery needs, shopping local, and getting the best prices in town. So stop wasting your money at the big box stores. Shop local and get ready for winter before winter gets you at Manitoba Battery, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive in the south side of the city. With citywide delivery inside the perimeter, you can also order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's welcome in Murat from The Athletic. And Murat, we've had a lot of great chats on this show over the years. I'm not sure we've ever had one coming off as ugly as a game as we just saw from the Winnipeg Jets last night. First off, just thoughts on what the heck that was in Buffalo last night.
Yeah, it was an embarrassing game for the Winnipeg Jets hockey club. It was a situation where not a single Jets player was immune to the malaise in Buffalo on Monday night. It was a situation where the Jets were outclassed from the get by one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference because they were quicker, because they executed their game plan, and because the Winnipeg Jets didn't come close to it. And for it to come on the heels of a 1-4-1 stretch of play, when they're talking about, hey, we won one in a row against Nashville, where they were just holding on for dear life in that third period, it makes perfect sense that Adam Lowry called a players-only meeting. This is a dire moment in the Winnipeg Jets season, and they got embarrassed and outclassed by the Buffalo Sabres last night, which should not be a sentence you get to say about a team with Stanley Cup ambitions.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to Steve Kouleas, and I mean, listen, I maybe kind of, tread more on the looking at the bright side than the dark side, but I'm trying to think of more embarrassing losses in the 2.0 era of the Jets, and it's a short list. And, for that to happen in the aftermath of the weekend, and listen, we can talk about the win in Nashville. I mean, there were still some concerning things in that game from where I sat. And I mean, coming off the game that Scott Arniel straight up said his team didn't show up for on Friday in Carolina, I would say you could have just taken what he had to say after the Carolina game and put it right there after last night's game, but it was a very different tone of the coach. I mean, I guess you can only go to that so many times, but it was despondent. It was dejected. And to be honest, I totally understand why. That would have been a real tough 3 hours to sit back on the bench and watch your team perform the way the Jets did last night.
Yeah, in a city where you personally have some of your best history, right? Like, he's a Sabres alumnus as much as he is a Winnipeg Jets alumnus. And for like the personal situation of being in that rink, in that city, and watching your team fail to execute the game plan that you laid out for him, right? Like, did he not tell Mike McIntyre that, hey, we showed him in the video, we showed the Buffalo Sabres transition attack, here are all the ways they're going to get you, here's what we're going to do about it, and then find out that the team was unable or unwilling to do anything about it, and just watch them get carved in transition over and over again, even beyond the plays that went in to the Winnipeg Jets net. Yeah, you're going to be despondent after that. And you're right, too. These are all people involved, right? Like, this is a human thing. You can only go to certain wells so many times. And, he's trying to push one button by, being a little bit more publicly critical of the team. He's trying to push another button by being clear about the game plan. At the end of the day, the players have to be able to execute. I don't think they've tuned their coach out. We're miles from that. They have to be able to get the job done. And if they're not, as they have not done, well, then we got to talk about the roster. We got to talk about their inability to play at pace. We got to talk about how they're not making plays at either blue line that help them win hockey games. The way they give up their zone for free because the back pressure is so slow, and the defense, there's 3 out of 6 of them you wouldn't trust to play transition defense against a really high-quality NHL club. They've got problems, and whatever he's been saying has not been enough to solve them.
There were two things that kind of came out from Arnie, and I just want your perspective on it. First of all, the despondent nature of it, and just his tone. But, it's not often that you hear a coach come out after the game and say straight up, we embarrassed ourselves. But often it is done more in the tone of the Friday game where you're hot, you're pissed off afterwards. And I'm not sure whether this was so clearly happening early in the game and there was a resignation to it by the end, Murat. But, we're embarrassing ourselves, and then following it up with a question from Mike where he said everything is on the table. I can't imagine it gets much worse than last night. And if you are bottoming out, if you are hitting rock bottom, which that better be from a Jets fan's perspective, the obvious question is to what do the coaching staff and the general manager do moving forward? Because it's very clear that wasn't even in the ballpark of an acceptable team effort or performance that we've seen last night. And that hasn't been the only one over the course of the last month plus.
Yeah, well, in order, I guess, the despondence, the sadness, the tone, the lack of fury in that particular statement. There is a reasonable explanation that has nothing to do with how poorly they played, and that could be the fact that Adam Lowry called a players-only meeting and they spoke at length, and there's a little bit of extra time that went by between that final buzzer and Scott Arniel speaking to media. It may be a case of where, a lot of the rage had fussed itself out by that period of time just because extra time had passed. It also might be just a recognition that, hey, they're taking ownership of this. So I'm not going to go, other than commenting on how bad the game is, I'm not going to go tear into them because clearly they're at least doing this players only meeting, which shows an acknowledgement of how poorly they played. And so credit to Adam Lowry for trying to get something going, and we'll see how the Jets respond to that. So for me, whether he was loud and furious about it doesn't really change anything for me. The fact is, he used the word embarrassed, and I think that the Winnipeg Jets, relative to their expectations for themselves, relative to what we understand their preparation to be and how well they played against Buffalo, embarrassed seems like a fine word. I'm not in the business of telling other people how to feel, but they got outclassed so badly you would hope that they want more for themselves than what they gave. And then the other business about everything on the table. Now, I wasn't in the hallway or the room, so to speak, last night, right? So take my interpretation with a grain of salt. By that point in the interview, I just kind of thought Scott Arniel was done being three-dimensional about his responses. And Mike asked, hey, what could be on the table? And Scott said everything. And that was meant to be a catch-all. Hopefully, though, that is something that the Jets take seriously. And, every line is up for grabs. Every roster decision is up for grabs as well, because you can only go to the players-only meeting so many times, too. There has to be a turn in the results and the performance.
It was about 3 weeks ago that the Jets lost 4-1 in Anaheim on that Sunday. And I remember doing the show the next day, and I recounted conversations that I had with a couple of the guys that I was watching the game with as the Ducks skated, just at a level that was so off of where the Jets were. And they looked a little slow. And again, this was before a lot of the secondary scoring issues had really compounded as they've gone on for another 3 weeks. But I remember asking myself, I would kill to be in the room with Kevin Cheveldayoff right now as to what he is saying as he sees what's like the way his team looks and the way some of the competition around the Western Conference is showing themselves. 3 weeks later, as they've gone through this slump, and you see a game like that last night, I mean, to me, I would imagine it would be as alarming as any performance he's maybe seen on his watch. It certainly would be right up there. I know he sat down with Mike on the road and said that the answers must come from within, but do you think that a game like that might move him more towards a place that he certainly hadn't planned and really considered potentially being in?
For me, maybe that's the door cracks open moment. And it's just the only reason I say that is because I think that Cheveldayoff is renowned for his patience and for his grind. Strengths, weaknesses, whatever. That's one of the hallmarks of Kevin Cheveldayoff. And as I understand it, unless I missed a standings update, they're within a point. And I'm not saying that to be right. I'm just checking my memory. They're within a point of the playoff cut line, right? There's 4 teams to pass if they want to catch a wild card spot, which means they've got to put some wins together. Catching 4 teams, even though there's just 1 point, is harder, right? There's a lot more competition. So that's the scenario that they're in. He still has a little bit of time to wait and see how the standings manifest themselves over the course of this month. And you've got the Colorado Avalanche coming up. I think that's December 19th. Can you imagine the team that played last night playing against the Colorado Avalanche and being shown what the class of the Western Conference looks like right now. If they're out of the playoffs or in this type of stretch by then, Chevy's not going to be able to do anything about it. So it's in this kind of next few weeks, probably where he's got to step up. I don't think he'd be there yet, just based on the words that he said in that reported piece, based on his history. But the Jets are at a point where they have to try new things, right? Like, I don't think you can go back to the same lines and pairings. I don't think you can go back to the exact same roster. If you fooled yourself into thinking that you beat Nashville, so the roster that beat Nashville is automatically your best group of 18 skaters, then you're lying to yourself. They've reached a scenario where it's go time on the consideration, which in Chevy speak means, I think he's still honestly going to hold to his word and be patient for a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they're going to blow this up and make some massive trade, but I do think, and I guess we can move on to where they go from here. I mean, that lineup last night, I mean, obviously they weren't playing anywhere close to what they are capable of, but at the same point, if you get, you're so far behind the play and so much slower than a team like Buffalo, like, never mind the Avalanche in 2.5 weeks. Like, what about tomorrow night in Montreal against the Habs? We just talked to Kouleas about that. That's as young and exciting and fast a team as you'll find right now in the NHL. And that seems to be almost kryptonite for a Jets roster that has looked old and slow more often than not over the course of the last month plus. I had said yesterday, and listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Brad Lambert, was dropping jaws in the 4 games that he played earlier on and, hasn't had a performance in the American Hockey League that says, I'm way too good for this league right now. I should be in the NHL. But he certainly is a player that adds some speed to your lineup. I do wonder if there's another shot with him, maybe not playing on the 4th line, maybe elsewhere. And from the blue line, Murat, at this point, I mean, how do you not just have Elias Salmonson in the lineup right now and let him run for a few games? I mean, it's all the things that they thought they were getting from some veteran players are frankly things that I think are compounding the problems right now. I mean, if it's not a trade, what can they do right now to maybe add some juice to this lineup, some speed, and hopefully change the way things looked last night and far too often in the past month?
I hope you don't kill me for this one, working backwards from the trade deadline here, right? But here's what I see. Trade deadline day, either Winnipeg has fixed this stuff or it hasn't. If it's fixed this stuff, it can be buyers. It can send assets out. It can focus on the playoff run. If it hasn't, it's got to be tearing some things apart. It's got to be looking at pending unrestricted free agents that playoff teams want that Winnipeg can't use because they won't be making the playoffs and selling at that point. You rewind from that. You move the calendar into January, let's say, ahead of the Olympic break. Well, you've got a reasonable sense by then of how close or far you are. If you've tried minor tweaks now in December and they haven't worked, January is a time for one last gasp. Maybe, you see a team like Vancouver and everybody talks about Kiefer Sherwood. That's a type of player Winnipeg should be looking at. These mid-tier players where you're not breaking the bank because you don't know that it's worth doing that, but you're still trying to show some belief in your team. And the types of moves that happen before that, let's say in December, are a little more minor. That's, okay, hey, is the goaltending good enough? I'm not sure. Maybe we've got to make a phone call about Laurent Brossoit if he's up to speed despite missing so much time with energy. I think they're going to try things within. But if it's not that type of minor deal, then it's got to be shifting people into and out of the lineup in this next little stretch of play. I think Winnipeg's first move is to run with the horses that got them to this stage, to continue to lean on the veterans and say, hey, this is plan A, make it work or don't. We've probably reached the point, and certainly by Montreal, if something like they have to have thought that they've reached the point where this is not working, they need some change. But coming out of a captain's meeting, your first play is to say, okay, you stepped up, you would identify these things, this is player driven, now you deliver. So I'm not sure that the big moves, the call Lambert up, the change of the roster construction happens until you've given them a game. I don't think you wait more than a week either. Lambert, I'm not in on. I don't think he showed nearly enough, and I think that he's not showing enough at the AHL to be the solution here. Salamonson, I am in on. I think he moves the puck better than NHL defensemen who are dressing on this roster more frequently than he is. And I guess the last thing I'll say, my answers are always so long, is this. At some point, one of the justifications somebody will give for playing the veterans is, well, the young guys haven't earned it yet. Think about respect. Think about the embarrassment of these AHL players playing above NHL veterans who are supposed to be able to get this done. And at some point, I'm not there yet today, despite that horrible loss. At some point, the answer is going to be let them be embarrassed, because this is meant to be a cup contending year for the Winnipeg Jets. That's what they circled as their goal in September. If they can't get there, well, then let the optics look ugly as the younger and faster players get their chance.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. And again, like when I bring up Brad Lambert, as I prefaced it, it's not like he's blown me away with anything that happened. I'm just looking, and he's a guy that comes to mind that, is a young player they've got high hopes for, that can skate at the level of these other teams that they're playing for right now. I mean, we heard it last night on the broadcast, but I mean, it was wild to see guys that don't see the Jets very often. And again, at maybe their worst moment of the season, hopefully. But just speak about how slow the team looked compared to the Buffalo Sabres. And then you add in, Murat, as you mentioned, the ease of transition of Buffalo last night to get the puck in their own end, whip it to the other defenseman, make one pass, and then be in and be dangerous on the rush. I mean, it's very clear that the guys right now, the veterans, if you will, just simply aren't getting it done. And when you're not defending and nobody's scoring, there's a certain amount of time that you can go before you have to do something else.
100%. And the clockwork of that transition play, Winnipeg may have instructed its players to play a certain way in the neutral zone to slow down the Buffalo Sabres. Winnipeg didn't make it to the neutral zone. Winnipeg's forwards got beat with a single pass. Its defensemen were at their own blue line. There was this enormous gap of space, and it was just gangbusters, the Sabres coming down the ice over and over again. You look at that transition play, Winnipeg doesn't get to the middle of the ice because they're not fast enough or organized enough or making the right reads to be in those spaces. And that's a problem that, I don't know, you might not be able to X and O's your way out of. And then if you come to that conclusion, then you got to start making some of those changes and start working on pace, because I mean, you say, Carolina's game wasn't so good. The Nashville win wasn't so good. There were a few games that they lost a couple weeks ago where they looked better than the result, but this is not that anymore. The turnaround needs to come a whole lot faster than the Winnipeg Jets look like they can play.
If we're not talking about Brad Lambert, when you look at the Moose, listen, I mean, obviously Chibrikov and Parker Ford would probably be near the top of the list. They were the ones on the roster at the beginning of the season. But I do think of other guys that, like Jared Anderson-Dolan played in the playoffs last year. Fagemo had a strong game. He has some NHL experience. DiGiuseppe won a Calder Cup. He's played at that level. With things being so dire, particularly amongst the ads of the guys that came in the offseason, how far off do you think they are from, even if it's a veteran player, a guy that's playing well, that's doing up, do they just go with a different look? And I guess there's a lot involved in that because of your roster. What do you do with the guys that you aren't playing? Who's on? But it's hard to imagine if they're not going to add anything via a trade, which is difficult to do at this point. And certainly I'm sure the vultures are circling right now, knowing the situation the Winnipeg Jets are in. That level of desperation to find other players from within, to quote Kevin Cheveldayoff, that can maybe come in and give a boost in a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, could we be talking about firing up the Gus bus? Is that do you reward a Danny Zhilkin for becoming a player that the Moose can count on in all situations, even though he would be maybe 8th in the pecking order coming out of camp? And there is a situation where you inject those players into the lineup. And I do want to say, in and amongst all of this, to the Winnipeg Jets' credit, I don't think that there are a lot of players who are cheating their effort level right now. I don't think that this is a situation where the slow, older veteran group of players isn't somehow trying to bring out the best in itself. I think it's a realistic reflection on certain weaknesses in their game and the overall lack of foot speed. The fact that it is metrically, literally, demographically the oldest and slowest team in the National Hockey League. You can't effort your way out of that. And I think that the Winnipeg Jets, a lot of these veteran players who could stand to sit aren't cheating the game from that effort level point of view. And I do want to say that. At the same time, you do often get spark plugs from younger players. So, I might think of Parker Ford. I might think of Jared Anderson-Dolan, just knowing the type of games that they have. Gustafsson, in terms of straight line speed anyway, even though he doesn't tend to generate when he plays, it makes some sense. And you want players who are going to be able to play at a pace that lets them forecheck and backcheck and impact the game in all three zones in ways that the veterans just aren't doing right now.
Murat, what I think is probably most likely, and whether this happens tomorrow, if they have a similar game or another result, they don't get a win, maybe it happens Friday. You'd have to think that as much as they've been loath to do it, we might see some significant shifting of the forward lines. If that do you expect that to happen? And if it does, where do you think they start?
Yeah, if they start with that in Montreal, I bet you it's back to plan A by the end of the game. Like, if they go back to the well that they've been playing with, and they keep Connor Scheifele-Vilardi together, they keep some of the lines similar anyway, some of the foundational pieces, and then they lose again, then I think you see it blown up properly in earnest for that game on Friday, and probably it goes 60 minutes. This is just my guess. I don't know that that's what Scott Arniel is thinking on this. But yeah, if everything is on the table, like Scott Arniel said, that's got to be an option as well. They're certainly not winning games with Connor Scheifele and Vilardi winning their minutes. They didn't win their minutes last night, but they've been really good for most of the season. They've created enough dangerous chances to outscore their opponents. But the Winnipeg Jets have been sitting on one productive line for an extended period of time, and any other team in the National Hockey League would have changed that by now. I know they want consistency. I know they think consistency is a big reason they had regular season success last year. They also had better players on the roster. That might be part of it. I think the ultimate thing to know, or like one thing that I keep thinking about this team, is that I've heard coaches say before, at this time of year, this is when the young and fast teams excel. By the time the game's a grind down the stretch run, the veteran teams will do better. They'll protect the middle of the ice. And we've seen, do you remember when Montreal smoked the Jets 4 straight games by protecting the middle of the ice with old and slow veterans in the playoffs in round 2?
Oh, yeah.
There's a theory that Winnipeg has enough smarts to be doing that to some other team in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, they're probably telling themselves, hey, the Florida Panthers limped in and look at what they did. But these aren't the friggin' Florida Panthers. They don't have an established series of deep playoff runs to lean on. So whatever you can say about what might or what will probably happen down the road, or what you believe in a best case scenario when Taves is flying and Lowry's back at his peak and all that sort of stuff, the reality is this team is not that, and it hasn't shown a lot of signs for us to believe that it is that in the last few weeks here. And that needs change. That needs to be addressed, whether it's the top line being broken up for a few minutes or a few games. You can't stare at these problems without feeling like you tried to do something and then feel like you're competing in terms of a head coaching staff or even management at this stretch of the season.
Now, I'll preface this with saying I hope in a month or two I can look back at this program and laugh about how freaked out everybody was because they got it together and they're doing exactly what they set out to be and they're back into it. But I have a hard time pulling up the standings right now in the National Hockey League, and particularly in the toughest division around the Central. And look at the Avalanche, who may never lose again. Dallas, who might only lose when they play Colorado. And Minnesota, who has been right there with those teams for more than a month. We did our Chud Sports Power Poll at the end of last week, and I had those 3 teams as 1, 2, and 3 in the NHL. It almost looks, Murat, that, barring, a big time slump by a team like the Wild, I think Dallas and Colorado were going to be there, or an incredible run from Winnipeg, we're actually starting to talk about, can they get into a wild card spot right now? And fortunately for them, the wild card teams right now are the Kraken and the Sharks. The Kraken are 4 games above 500. The Sharks are 2. And the Jets are 1 right now. 1 game above 500 of the 13-12 and going in the wrong direction. The landscape of this West, if things don't turn around soon, again, you're basically now in a 5 or 6 team battle for 1 spot. And that's a really, really tough place to be. And I'm kind of with you. I've bought into that. You know what? This team, while right now for the regular season might not be as good, but come playoff time, they've got the things that have historically really helped teams win in the playoffs. At this rate, we won't be talking about playoffs. We'll be talking about the draft lottery simulator in the last month. So, and that's what was really, that kind of got me last night. This was a team that should, by any measure, have looked desperate and played with a real sense of urgency. And that wasn't even remotely there last night for the most part of the full 60 minutes, despite what was happening.
Yeah. I think that's the frustration. You want a story you can believe in, right? Team plays itself to bits, choosing words here, but a team really is obviously hustling, drives play, creates chances, doesn't bury, they get goalied, other team gets a bounce, blah, 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 whatever. And they've given you some procedural, process-based reason to believe that, hey, they've got it though. This team can do it. That's a different feeling that I think Jets fans are feeling today, where they didn't give. You can go player by player. You can go to the best players in the world on Winnipeg's roster from top to bottom and point at fundamental things that didn't work for them last night. You look at, I kind of want to do it, but let's use Adam Lowry as one example. Have you ever seen an Adam Lowry-led shutdown line get hemmed in its own zone quite as badly as they did at times last night? That is a foundation of Winnipeg Jets hockey. Josh Morrissey on the PK, that as that first goal goes in, he's had better battle than that. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Gabriel Velarde, the way they get carved, 1 pass beats all 3. The way that the slower defense, who we expect to be slower, got absolutely turnstiled in transition. The way that defensive stalwart, Dylan Samberg, was the bank pass into the goal off the rush. The way that Vladislav Nemesnikov, a hardworking player, gave the puck away, leading to DeMello's penalty. The way that DeMello...
That started it all. That was just a terrible omen of what was to come. Soft play, boom, penalty, power play goal, boom.
Another stick infraction for Dylan DeMello, who's second only to Logan Stanley in minor penalties for the Jets this year. And it's showing some of the ways, he's not been beat horribly in transition like he had been a couple times this time a year ago, but those penalties are a problem. That Nemesnikov giveaway was a problem. I think it's Nino Niederreiter who puts the puck off a skate, leading to the goal that, was it Josh Norris? Nope, who banked it in off of Milich's back and in. That was a giveaway at the offensive blue line. You can go, every one of these players does good things for the Winnipeg Jets. This is not some sort of morality play where I'm trying to carve them to pieces, but every single one of them got beat by players they shouldn't. Josh Norris shrugged Luke Schenn off and dumped him in the corner effortlessly, Schenn being the veteran who's supposed to be strong enough to handle all of this stuff. You can go tip to toe of the roster and find reasons why they weren't good enough last night and haven't shown those signs. And I guess to actually get back to what you asked me, or talking about playoffs and all of these, you need those moments to go Winnipeg's way, even if they're losing, to feel like you've got signs that you can believe in them. And I think that Winnipeg's belief from the fan base dropped off last night, and their play earned that. And that's a pretty sad thing about what's supposed to be a really good hockey team.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts, and we're certainly hearing it in the chat today on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Murat, always great to have you on the program. The report cards are out. Not sure if you can redo them after last night's game. I hope that was sent in to the administrators beforehand, but just fill people in on what's waiting for them at the Athletic as we get now past the 25 game mark.
Yeah, I have a Winnipeg Jets report cards piece, 25 grades at the 25 game mark. That was scheduled between my editor and myself days ago in terms of that piece being assigned. We're not throwing it out there just because the Jets got carved to bits. But the last night's game is in part of that rating, right? And I think that it's tough to watch the Winnipeg Jets at 13-12-0. They have won 13 games. We got to remember that too. It's tough to watch them do that during a season they want to be Stanley Cup contenders, that they think they've gotten over that first round hump, that this is a legitimate team, and we should be talking about them in the stretch run. Well, they haven't earned that yet. And so there aren't a lot of great grades to go around. I think it's really just Scheifele and Morrissey in the A+ tier, and it kind of drops off from there with Connor getting good marks as well. And there's just so many cases where players aren't playing to their tier in the lineup. I think Jets fans wanted me to carve them even more based on last night, but clearly it's been a disappointing first 25 games for their season.
Murat, appreciate you as always, pal. Have a great one. We'll see you at the rink.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks for having me.
There's Murat Atesh. It's in The Athletic right now, theathletic.com. And, of course, you can follow him on X at WPG Murat. No skate today for the team. Maybe some soul-searching, but that means no updates to the clean line lines. We'll get to those tomorrow on the program as we prepare for the game tomorrow night at the Bell Center in Montreal. The clean line lines and WST brought to you in part by Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Local ownership and growing for 40 years, and down the top residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. The winter is here. Clean Line brings the heat. And, of course, it is also there for you at all Manitobans, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with emergency services in case you need it. For all your plumbing, heating, and electrical needs, go to Clean Line online at cleanline.ca. Lots going on at BP as we get into the holidays. Don't forget, they've got the great gift card promo right now. So if you need gift cards for staff, for family, friends, teachers, coaches, get those BP gift cards. For every $50 card, you receive a free $10 promo card. And if you're doing a large gift card order for the office, you'll get an additional 10% bonus on orders of $1,000 or more. They're doing some Buffalo business for holiday parties and caterings. Check out the new holiday menu featuring the crispy chicken vodka penne, pepperoni stinger pizza, or the amazing new stuffed crust mozza sticks. And don't forget, WST Holiday Watch Party, better be better than last night's game, Wednesday, December 17th, Boston Pizza Kenniston, where the Jets will be taking on the St. Louis Blues. Get your holiday shopping taken care of for the Jet fans, in your family and friends, and of course, everyone that loves sports with one stop at Royal Sports. Tons of great deals coming out of Black Friday and Cyber Monday at Royal Sports as we count down to the holidays. Jets jerseys with your favorite players, name and number, Bomber gear, and the best in NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, and Blue Jays merchandise for the fans in the family. Get it all done. And don't forget to check out all the cool stuff on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side, the best snowboard department in town, and the biggest and best selection of hockey gear. And by the way, the stick sale right now is going on past Black Friday. So with over $250,000 in hockey sticks, if you're looking for a great deal on one, now's the time to get down to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. All right, Taylor Allen's going to jump on with us in just a second. First, though, a big cheers, a holiday cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in Taylor Allen from the Winnipeg Free Press, fresh back from Halifax. Taylor, great talking to you, pal. How was your time out at the Olympic trials?
It was fantastic. And honestly, one of the coolest things was it felt like no matter where I went for lunch, dinner, whatever pub I happened to make my way to after the final draw, I would bump into Winnipeggers. There are Manitobans everywhere. So it was really cool to see how many Manitobans made the trip out to Halifax for arguably one of the best events, on the curling calendar. It only happens once every 4 years, obviously.
You headed out there sort of midweek, and I imagine got there right in the real morning, I guess, of Colleen Jones. I mean, Canadian curling legend, a broadcaster that so many people were familiar for, and someone who, in a lot of ways, her fingerprints all over the sport here in Canada. Just speak to that, if you would, just before we kind of talk about what happened on the Pebble.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I only got a chance to speak to Colleen Jones once, but honestly, that was probably one of the most memorable interviews I've ever had in my entire life. Like, she was just an absolute blast, just full of color, full of life. And it was just so obvious how much she loved the sport and just how happy she was to see, how much the sport has grown, since her heyday back in the day. So, yeah, I mean, it goes without saying just how massive of a loss it is for everyone that knew her. And Devin Haru from CBC, he had his podcast with her and did lots of great things with her on camera and off camera, obviously. And he wrote an amazing tribute story to Colleen and everything that she meant. And Jennifer Jones, she shared some great stories about Colleen this week as well. So yeah, it's heartbreaking, and just the timing of it as well, for her to pass while the trials are happening in Halifax is just so hard to wrap your head around. But I mean, hey, Christina Black, though, the run that she had, who's from Halifax, she was saying that, hey, we got an angel looking over us this week. And she might be right, because, yeah, what a run that Christina Black had.
Yeah, she was phenomenal. And I mean, it was really hard to imagine she was going to beat Holman 2 out of 3. But the class that she showed afterwards in that post-match interview was something that I'll remember for a long time. And speaks very well of the sport. From a Manitoba perspective, we had high hopes for Matt Dunstone's team and Carrie Anderson's team. Carrie fell just short of getting to the final. Matt made it to the final, but wasn't able to beat Brad Jacobs. Just thoughts on the performances and the close calls of Manitoba's top curling teams out at the trials.
Yeah, I feel like Carrie Anderson was probably feeling pretty confident going into that semifinal against Christina Black, because she had never lost to Christina Black ever. I think she was 8-0 all time against Christina heading into that one. And yet Christina got hot at the right time and Carrie didn't have her best stuff, and the rest was history. So, yeah, of course, I think lots of the Manitobans that I referenced that made the trip, obviously, they would have loved to have seen Carrie in the final, and she probably would have gave Rachel a bit of a better run. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, I don't think anyone can complain that Rachel Homan won the women's and she's going to be representing Canada. I mean, we all love sports and watch sports for the upsets, right? Like, that's what makes, being a sports fan and follower so much fun. But this is kind of the one event, if you're a Canadian, at least, you want it to be kind of boring and predictable, and you want the best of the best to win. I think that happened on both sides. And then, Matt Dunstone, I think he would have been a great rep for Canada too, obviously. But, I kind of figured that it wasn't going to happen after game 1 against Brad Jacobs, because Brad Jacobs was talking to us and he's like, you know what? After winning the Brier last year, which was the second time winning the Brier, and of course, he won Olympic gold in 2014. And he was saying after game 1 against Maddie, he was saying, you know what? I'm at a point in my career where I'm at peace. And I feel like I've accomplished everything. So back in the day, I'd be really anxious and nervous when I'd play a big game like this. But now I kind of just go with the flow. And I'm just kind of like, and he said this word for word. He said, this is going to sound bad, but like, I kind of just don't care anymore. So hearing Brad say that, and then of course there's Matt Dunstone, who's been on the doorstep and so close to having this career-altering win these past few years. And he could say all the right things, but of course he's feeling anxious and nervous when he's playing in a final like this because he hasn't won it yet. So just hearing how confident and calm, cool, and collected that Brad Jacobs was is like, okay, sorry, Maddie, but I think this is going to be a pretty
The first game was
climb.
A wild one too. I mean, a back and forth affair that could have gone either way. And I think when Dunstone wasn't able to win that game, it put them in a really tough situation trying to go back-to-back against a team with the quality of the Jacobs rink.
Yeah, and Maddie had him in that one. Like the last end there, if I remember correctly, I think 4 out of the last 5 shots that they had, and Dunstone, both of his last 2 shots, he misfired on both of those, and you just can't get away with that. And Brad Jacobs, he didn't have his best stuff in that game either. I mean, the ice was kind of up and down all week and kind of unpredictable, and that game, it was pretty evident. But yeah, I mean, letting that one slip through his fingers is kind of like, okay, you're probably not going to recover from this. And even same thing with the women's side, Christina Black, she kind of, Rachel Holman had probably maybe her worst game of the week, and Christina Black gave her a good run, but didn't come out on top. And yeah, good luck beating Brad Jacobs or Rachel Holman twice in a row.
Yeah, well, listen, the rest of the world are going to have to deal with them now. They'll be representing Canada at the Olympics in Italy. The Holman Empire, one of the most incredible runs in the history of the sport over the last couple years, continues to the Olympic Games, and we'll see if Brad Jacobs can become a 2-time Olympic champion. While we've got you here, your normal beat, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a little quiet right now, but we had heard quite a bit on a search for potential offensive coordinators. What's the latest? What are you hearing around Bomberland as they look to sort of lock in on how this management group and coaching staff will look heading into free agency in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know yet who the OC is going to be next year, but I mean, just the fact that they're talking to other people, I think that kind of answers everything in itself right there, that it's probably not going to be Jason Hogan, obviously. So, the Argos, they've decided to hire Mike Miller as their head coach, and that was a guy that Winnipeg was interested in. So that's, off the table now, obviously. But yeah, I mean, there's still Tommy Condell, there's still Jarius Jackson. He could get promoted to OC. Obviously, he's a guy that has head coach and play calling experience in this league before, and a guy that probably should have been the OC this year, if we're being honest. So, yeah, so we'll see. I'm sure we'll get an answer on that pretty soon. I mean, going in as you're talking to guys about coming back to Winnipeg, I'm sure they'd kind of like to know who's going to be actually calling the plays and whatnot. So, yeah, I'd expect an answer on that pretty soon.
Yeah, today Mike Miller named the coach of the Argos. He's also going to be the offensive coordinator. Rest of the coaching staff unclear right now. Taylor, always good having you on the program. I tell you what, I was lucky enough to be in Saskatoon for the last Olympic curling trials, and it was such a fun event to be at. And then to think that it was in Halifax, which is a place that I've always wanted to get to and haven't done yet. Pretty jealous of you, but I mean, that is a once every 4-year event. And I would imagine, just on the way out, back to curling for a second, we talked about this with John Cullen. Now that the final rocks have been thrown and our Olympians have been crowned, the world of curling, we always talk about the NHL free agent frenzy that sort of often is a dud on July 1st. There's the potential for an absolute sea change in the sport, particularly on a Canadian level, with so many teams somewhat being up in the air for a commitment of the next 4 years, the quadrennial, if you will, to get back to the Olympics.
Absolutely. I mean, this curling offseason is going to be insane. Basically, everyone's going to be a free agent. I mean, if you're not the one who won the Olympic curling trials, you need to be reevaluating your team and seeing where you go from here. And, just look at Manitoba, right? I think, Caitlin Laws, where does she go from here? Her team on paper heading into this quad, I think people had some pretty high expectations, and they had some, some decent moments here and there, but they didn't quite live up to that hype, right? So where does she go from here? Does she keep playing, or does she go back to playing third? Carrie Anderson, started the quad hot, obviously. Now Rachel is far and away the top team in Canada. Does Carrie make a shakeup, right? So, yeah, I think in Manitoba especially, we're going to see a lot of roster movement, and I think there should be, right? Because no one in the country is even close to Rachel Holman's level. And on the men's side, I mean, Matt Dunstone, wouldn't be surprised to see him keep things how it is. But yeah, it's going to be all over the place. But just one more thing on Matt Dunstone, though. I mean, obviously people are kind of hoping to see him win a big one pretty soon. And I think that could even honestly happen in a few months at the Brier. But you just kind of look at the curling landscape right now in our country. Brad Gouchou's retiring. Brad Jacobs, I don't think he wants to play that much longer. Mike McEwen's 45. Kevin Cooey is 50. So I think in a year or two or even 3, I think Matt Dunstone's going to really be far and away the number one team in the country. So he'll get some. He'll make up for some of these heartbreakers that he has had. But yeah, this offseason it's going to be all over the place, and I'm here for it. That's one of the things that makes curling so fun, all the drama and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
so
one other note,
crazy.
Briar and the Scotties coming up. The home and rink won't participate in the Scotties, which has made Kerry Einarson Team Canada for the upcoming Scotties event, and there'll be another team added through the rankings. Taylor, always good having you on the program, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
All right, good stuff. There's Taylor Allen from the Freep. All right, Jake's going to jump on in a minute. We'll get to the Coolbet lines. Busy night tonight in the National Hockey League. But let's get to a little bit more fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay, no added fees at fansfirst.ca. We have... Ian Reddy, Nyquist and Pearson on that 2-on-1 late in the game tells the story. Nyquist misses the net by a mile, and Pearson was probably offside. Let's keep him in there. T. Will, a high draft pick this year likely wouldn't even be able to contribute while this core is still viable unless we get a McKenna or something. And I just got this one coming in on our chat. This is from Aaron Johnson. The fundamental difference between last year's team and this team is the loss of speed. When facing younger, faster rosters, they are getting outskated. If they don't move out veterans and bring in youth to improve team speed, this team is missing the playoffs. Continue your thoughts. It's been hot and heavy in the chat all day long. Brought to you by fansfirst.ca. By fans, for fans. No fees. All right, let's bring in our pal Jake Bolin-Moss from Coolbet. And Jake, you must be hearing our Jets conversations. Probably remind you of what's happening with your own team right now. The Canadian team misery index has a lot of contenders right now for the top spot on the power poll.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a similar problem we're both having, Huss, where these teams are not able to catch up to the speed of what the NHL is right now. I mean, you watch a lot of these games, and I watch a ton of Jets games, admittedly, but I imagine it's very similar. You watch a lot of these Leaf games, and the opposing teams just move at a different rate of play. And the Leafs brought in a ton of these veterans, especially on the back end, and it hasn't been pretty. Like when you pick up a guy like Troy Stetcher off waivers, and he's noticeably a standout on defense because, he can rush up the ice and get back on a back check. It's quite concerning. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the Jets, but I imagine from what the conversations you've been having, Huss, it sounds very similar that the speed has kind of caught up to a couple of these teams that are, on the older end of the NHL.
Well, for
rosters.
sure. I mean, listen, the league is going one way, and unfortunately, I think the Jets and the Leafs as well on your side of things are kind of trending in the other direction, and it's concerning. You guys is this a loser leaves town match tonight against the Florida Panthers? Crazy to see the standings right now with the Sabres win over the Jets that has Florida and Toronto tied at 25 points at the bottom of it. And you know what? As much as, we talk about how good the Central Division is, and you can argue that the 3 best teams in the league right now are in the Jets division, the one thing that's a little different in the West, that the second wild card is only 2 games above 500. In the East right now, it's 6. That's a lot of room. And I mean, the Panthers and Leafs both have to pass another 6 teams between them before getting up there. Are you guys feeling the urgency in and around the club right now for games like tonight moving forward? Or is this still a long season, plenty of time to turn it around territory?
Yeah, I don't know. If you ask Brad Marchand, it's only 25 games into the season, and that team over there in the dressing room is not worried about whether they're going to get into the playoffs or not. I don't know if, Brad's doing his classic pro Leafs, They got the guys over there. They just got to find a way. He's the ultimate troll, and I tip my cap to Brad. I don't know if I'm quite buying that. Obviously, they picked up a big win against Pittsburgh in their last outing, but it's not. It's a night-to-night league, and this team looks different every single night. Some nights they can't score. They happen to be able to score in their last game, but you look back at the Washington game, and they're holding on to this 2-0 lead, and slowly but surely Washington is inching their way back in to the point where they can't even get to overtime and pick up a point, and they lose in regulation. Those regulation losses right now are killer, Huss. The Leafs can't afford to have too many of those, I'd say, into the end of the year. So, yeah, I think there's a sense of urgency in Toronto this month, especially to kind of right the ship here. And it all starts tonight with Florida, who obviously, I know their standings show different, but still a team that's tough to play against regardless of the night.
Hey, let's get to the NFL for a minute. Huge slate coming up this weekend. Massive for a number of teams. But your squad, the Pats, I mean, just a smashing of the Giants last night on Monday Night Football. 10-2 right now. The AFC is so fascinating in that, you pretty much have New England locked in all likelihood, Denver. I would have said Indianapolis, except now we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars and Houston Texans right there as well. I mean, the fact that the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens are all in the situation that they are right now, maybe the most dire of them all is Kansas City. I don't think that's debatable. It's going to set up for a wild final 5 weeks of the regular season, beginning with some big-time games coming up. Well, starting with Thursday, almost an elimination game, if you will, between the Cowboys and Lions. Going to feel like a playoff game, and all the big slit ones we have leading up to the Sunday nighter with the Chiefs at home to the Texans without their tackles against the best front four in the league with their season on the line. It freaks me out even saying it.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning, Huss, for your Chiefs. We thought last week was, another one of those must-win games, and they're really starting to get to win-out territory. Like, they're running out of losses to continue to pick up here. And it's funny you mentioned the Colts. That kind of seems to be the team that you're kind of hoping falls in the process here, because you do have a win over the Colts as a Chiefs guy. So, you wonder what can happen. The shakeup in that division with the Jags and the Texans both right there alongside the Colts now. The Colts lose a few more games. They could be on the outside looking in. But, frankly, when it comes to the Chiefs, Huss, it's win or go home time. There's no more room for error, really, in this final stretch. Obviously, Baltimore has to kind of focus on winning that division, which I think they should be able to do, unless, Cincy has something to say about it. Are they going to go on another heater to try to get the top of that division? That should be interesting. The Bills, I'm pretty comfortable thinking they'll probably find a way to get in. But, yeah, it's super interesting. You see the top of the AFC right now, and it's not your usual suspects in the Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. It's New England. It's Denver. And, yeah, it's been a very interesting season. And on the NFC side, like you mentioned, Thursday night's going to be a crazy one between Detroit and Dallas. Dallas, a team that's been kind of rolling over the last couple of weeks here. Detroit, a team who's desperate, also on the outside looking in. It's crazy. You look at the NFC West, Huss. That's got to be the craziest division going right now. 3 teams with 9 wins, and I think San Fran is a 7th seed, and they're a 9-win team. Like, pretty absurd that that's what we're looking at right now. But credit to a lot of these teams. They've been getting it done all season, and the Rams choking up that game against the Panthers last week could come back to haunt them here down the stretch.
Yeah, who would have had the Chicago Bears as the 1 seed right now, which is absolutely crazy.
I'm pretty sure Chicago will not be the top of the NFC come the end of the season. They do have a pretty tough schedule to close it out against some of those tough teams in the NFC. I think the Bears will make the playoffs. But I do think it's going to be tough for them to hold that spot at the top of the NFC. But at the same time, I've been saying that kind of all year, and Ben Johnson just keeps winning football teams.
We were saying that before they went into Philly on Friday.
I know.
And,
I know.
Listen, they got the win, and Philly doesn't look good right now. They're still 8-4 and comfortably atop that division, but have to find a way to get back to win. But you're right. I think it's going to be 11 wins to get into the playoffs in the NFC, which makes this Detroit-Dallas game basically feel like a playoff game. I mean, I guess there's the chance the Panthers could go on a run, and they obviously could still win the division, but there'll be one NFC South team in the playoffs.
Right.
There's probably going to be 3 from the NFC North, and there's probably going to be 3 from the NFC West. Although I guess that's not possible because that would be 4 wildcard teams, and there's only 3. So it's good. Someone's going to be the odd team out, and that's why. I mean, if the Lions can get to 8-5, they'll be right there. If they can take care of their business, that'll be fine. Dallas, they could get to 7-5-1 and be within striking distance of the Eagles. And the Eagles, of course, are playing on Monday Night Football against the Chargers. They've got a tough game at Buffalo in Week 17, and they've got 2 games against the Commanders, and it doesn't matter even if they're winning the Super Bowl, they lose one of those games to the Commanders. They've got the Raiders on right now. So do you have an early lean on this game on Thursday night right now? The Lions are 3-point favorites. I don't know whether I'm still shell-shocked for what Dak, Pickens, and CeeDee Lamb did to the Chiefs defense last week, but I've got a hard time going against Dallas right now with the way that they're playing, and obviously Detroit's been kind of underwhelming compared to our expectations.
Yeah, obviously it's only Tuesday. I probably wouldn't lock in a pick just yet. Obviously want to see where, the public's betting and what the injury reports look like, but I have a hard time arguing with you, Huss. I mean, Dallas has been really impressive. The defense hasn't been elite by any stretch of the imagination, but they've been serviceable, and it's allowed for that offense to go get scores when they need them and win football games. So, getting 3 points with Dallas isn't too bad. It's so hard because both teams are so desperate for a win. You don't really know what you're going to get. Like you think to yourself, well, Detroit could be without Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think they lost another player last week. They brought in Frank Ragnow, their former center. Turns out he's got a hamstring that's not even connected to his body, so he's not going to play. Like, I don't know. It just feels like almost like a nightmare season that's happening here for Detroit. I do lean Dallas with you. I know it's a lot of points, but these teams had a full week. Like, they both played on Thursday. I don't mind the over at 54.5. I think there could be points in this one. And if Detroit wants to keep up with Dallas, they're probably going to need to score some points themselves.
No, it's a great point. Hey, listen, before we go, let's take a look at the NHL lines tonight over at Coolbet. And there's some big games. We mentioned, the bottom teams in both conferences are playing tonight. You got the Flames and the Predators in the West. Nashville's a -119 favorite. Calgary +101. And you got the Toronto Maple Leafs playing the Florida Panthers in Sunrise. Panthers a -159 favorite. And the Leafs +135. Couple other interesting matchups. Dallas is in New York. The Rangers have 2 wins at home this year. They've won 11 on the road. Rangers are a +105 home dog against the Stars at -123. Tampa has been playing great. They're -130 favorites in New York against the Islanders. And an all-Canadian matchup, the Ottawa Senators a slight favorite in Montreal against the Habs, who the Jets are going to be seeing tomorrow. Any games pop out to you if we were going to put together maybe a little 3-gamer?
Yeah, I mean, like the Lightning as slight favorites, -130 on the road. I think the fact that they've been getting it done with, I don't know if you've seen the back end there, but it's really decimated, and they're just finding ways to win hockey games. It's been pretty impressive. I think they're the top of the Atlantic right now. I don't mind them to keep rolling. Hard time putting the Leafs-Panthers game on the card personally. I would leave that to you if that were the case. Avs on the puck line, similar to that Tampa number -130. The Avs, man, feel like they're just never going to lose. I know you already mentioned it.
Every night.
One regulation loss. Like, this is out of control. It's like betting on the Dodgers in the regular season on the run line. Like, you're just going to bet them every night. And, I looked at Vancouver, just looking at some props, I was putting together a few parlays, and like, just no one on their team is recording points. Like, I don't know. It's just a disaster right now in Vancouver. So Colorado at home, -1.5. I don't mind one bit.
Hey, 2 other games. What about 2 games? Minnesota is in Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota is +125. Oilers -147. Oilers got that win on the weekend. That's the only game they played since they were embarrassed by Dallas 8-3 last week. Listen, Minnesota's been playing so well. They just lost in a shootout to Buffalo. I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota got in there. And I actually like the Caps. They've won 7 of 8. They looked great last week. They're in LA to take on the Kings. I don't mind the Capitals at plus money for that one as well.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Huss. I don't know if there was one of the ones I like that you want to add. We can do a 3-gamer if you want to just do money lines. We go Tampa, Mini, Washington, and keep the puck line off of there. But, I mean, the Avs feel pretty automatic right now. I got to say, too, Huss, I know this isn't a Olympic hockey segment we're doing right now. I don't know how Logan Thompson isn't the number 1 goalie for Canada. And I'm sure he is. But I think there's still a lot of people out there like, well, Binnington got you the win at the Nation. I think what Binnington showed this year and what Thompson has showed this year, it's pretty clearly there is a better candidate playing goalie that should be playing goalie for Team Canada. I don't care about the politics of it all. I don't care about whether they like Logan Thompson or not. It doesn't really matter. This guy has absolutely shown he's the number 1 goalie in this league and probably the best Canadian goalie playing in the NHL right now.
So I'm 100% with you. I think Montembeau's played himself off the team. I think Binnington. I think Kemper has an argument to get to be the 3rd spot as well. It's another guy that I have my eyes on. So I don't know. And you know what? Speaking of which, is that the goaltending matchup tonight?
Yeah,
Logan Thompson
I think it
and
is.
Darcy Kemper both unconfirmed. So I think another reason why Washington will come up big tonight. I guess we could. I mean, Minnesota is tough. I mean, if we just go Tampa, Washington at plus money, and Old Faithful, the Avalanche puck line, we get it to plus 526.
I don't mind that at all.
Let's throw that in there. Let's throw that in there up in the combo card. So we're going to go Washington and Tampa on the money line, and the Avalanche at minus 1.5. We'll get a little boost for the people there and get that up in the combo cards coming up for tonight's game. Oh, it just went up. The Lightning number went down, so it's actually now plus 537. So maybe a good time to get in. So send it to the boys. We'll get that one up, Jakey. And, lots to get to. We got a big poker tourney a week Wednesday. I know Pat's going to be on as we get closer to the week. And obviously a huge edition of WST winners on Friday as we try and lock in and get some wins. A couple good ones. I'm still mad about the Saints losing on that backdoor cover last week, and so close with a couple of the parlays, but we just need to get her done.
I couldn't believe that Dolphins game, Huss. Like, it just felt like the Dolphins were in total control, and then they just kind of, I don't know, they kind of fell asleep at the wheel, and all of a sudden the Saints are back in it. They recovered the onside kick. I thought they were going to win that game at one point. Tough one there. I was 3-1 in the spreads, 0-2 in the props. I just could not find it last week when it came to props. Waddle didn't even get close to scoring. So back to the drawing board when it comes to the players, but I'm feeling pretty good on the spreads. The uglier it gets, the better I feel.
All right, we'll look forward to getting that up in the combo cards for tonight, and we'll lock it in for Friday morning, breaking down the Thursday big pseudo playoff game between
that'll
Detroit
be a fun
and
game.
Dallas, and then getting our picks for Sunday. Jake, as always, thanks for doing this, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
At Jake Bolin Moss, if you want to follow on X, and of course give at Coolbet Canada a follow for all the latest promos. And if you haven't played a Coolbet, you can use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit, and mark it in next Wednesday, a week tomorrow, our next edition of the WST Poker Series as we get into it for December. Remo, how have you enjoyed the chat today? Pretty fiery, huh? It's not that I expected any different after what we saw last night.
Everyone's got an opinion. I think Lori's got it figured out. They're like, wow, we can end the show right now. Not sure why we're trying to figure out the Jets. Not complicated. They lost a bunch of speed and gained slower, older players. We're not as good as last year compared to most. Getting better, most other teams. So we can shut down the show. Lori's got it figured out. It's obvious to everyone, and case closed.
You know what? it's pretty much, at least right now, that's playing out. I mean, I can't disagree based on what we've seen for the past month and especially last night. Well, on the bright side, there is a game tomorrow, another chance to make up for and kind of get the bad taste out of people's mouths. Although I'm sure no one's got a worse taste in their mouth than the guys in that dressing room. We had the players-only meeting yesterday. Tomorrow will be an interesting show, Remis, because we'll have the opportunity to hear what the guys have to say from the morning skate. Obviously, I think there could be some tweaking or changes to the clean line lines. We'll go over that and hear what Scott Arniel has to say beforehand after a pretty despondent post-game show after that showing in Buffalo last night.
Yeah, it was such a bad showing in Buffalo. You sent me this. They're raising the banner at KeyBank Arena, forced another team to have a players-only meeting, December 1, 2025.
Raise the banner. Raise it.
Someone's got to keep track of how many, teams have had a players-only meeting or fired a coach after losing to Buffalo over the last, 15 years. I imagine Buffalo and Columbus would be the leaders in that category. I do always reference when the Jets fired Claude Noel after a bad loss to Columbus. Don't think anything of that nature is going to happen here, but what I did have the poll, what do you think should happen? People want to see some lineup shakeup, whether that's splitting up the top line or making some call-ups, sitting, scratching someone. Do we see Salamonson and Koepke in? What are we going to see from the top line? Very intrigued. All eyes on the skate. And, we had on Mike McIntyre yesterday and Taylor Allen today. Shout out to the Winnipeg Free Press who was sending those guys on the road. Mike, the only one there yesterday, asking Arniel, DeMello, Connor the tough questions, and Taylor Allen on scene in Halifax to report on the curling trials. So pretty awesome in a day and age where not a lot of newspapers really do that anymore. The Free Press here in Winnipeg, sending those guys out there. So shout out to Mike, who was able to ask those questions yesterday and get the answers from Arniel, where then I screen capped his tweet and put it on our Instagram, and only fueled the reaction from Jets fans who are, as I said, last season, the dream, this year, the nightmare.
Yes, well, the last month has been a little nightmarish. Lots of hockey left, but nothing's going to change if we don't see the Jets completely change the way that they're playing right now, and it could be the bodies in the lineup. We'll be all over it tomorrow at 1 o'clock before the Jets play the Montreal Canadiens. Jets will presumably have a morning skate. We should have some details on any changes to the lineup for tomorrow. I personally would love to see Elias Salmonson back in the lineup, that for sure. But we'll be all over it for you here on WST to make it happen. Great stuff today in the chat. Love the passion from all of you. And we can only hope that tomorrow is better than yesterday was. Remo, you got anything more before we shut her down?
Hold on. The Extra Boy Bruce says, didn't Paul Maurice resign after a loss to the Sabres? Was
yes.
Was it? I think it sounds familiar.
I'm pretty sure you're right.
So it
was Jets, like a Tuesday. It was a midweek game against the Sabres. Then there was a couple days, and then he quit on a game day against the Washington Capitals, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. It was head of the Washington Capitals. Yes, it was a 4-2 loss at home to the Buffalo Sabres on December 14. So, lose to the Sabres or Blue Jackets. That's a recipe. It's a coach killer right there.
Well, there won't be any coaching changes for tomorrow's game. There could be some lineup changes for the games, and I definitely know that Scott Arniel won't walk out on the team. But they got to walk in together and figure out a way to win a damn game. And then get the Buffalo Sabres back here on Friday night here in Winnipeg in front of the home fans, where a performance like last night will certainly not cut it. Thanks again to Steve Kouleas for jumping on today. Great stuff with Murat, Taylor Allen, and JBM in that final half. And, of course, to Can you hear me, Reem?
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know. My mic disconnected.
You're good.
But thanks again, everyone. We're still rolling. Big show tomorrow. Join us live at 1, and we will get ready for the Jets and Habs. Move on from yesterday, hopefully to a much better performance. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day, and everyone participating in a very lively WST chat today. We will see you tomorrow, getting ready for the Jets and Habs, 1 p.m. live right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for hanging out today.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.